Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we help you figure out everything related to D2C subscriptions. I'm really excited to be joined today by Shelly Gupta, the founder of BakIt Box. Shelly, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited. Unfortunately, I did eat before we recorded this, but I'm still feeling a little bit of hunger pains, and looking at your site beforehand, I'm actually kind of craving a little bit of chocolate cake right now. But I would love for you to tell everybody at home, what is BakIt Box?
Yeah, absolutely. So BakIt Box is an introduction to culture and STEM learning for kids 5 and up. And we do that through our outlet of baking. So every kit that you receive shipped directly to your door will have the ingredients that you need to make a very unique bake inspired by different countries around the world, but it also introduces you to STEM activities and learnings around that topic or that region of the world.
That's so interesting. How did you get into that? What was the genesis for that idea?
Yeah, so it started off with wanting to bring more diversity into baking. As I grew up as a first-generation Canadian and now living in the US, my parents are from India, and just that access to culture, not only my own, but anyone's culture growing up was just very limited, and there's really not a lot of opportunity. And today, number of years later, the baking aisle is still carrying brands that are over 100 years old. We don't have DIY opportunities to bake something with rich culture. And so the idea first started with, let's bring culture into baking and introduce more countries, introduce more regions and flavors. And it kind of evolved from there into, there's so much to learn about these places. And a lot of people learn through food, cooking and cuisine and culinary is such a way to bond that it kind of evolved into an opportunity to bring that education into the youngest generation and do it with an at-home experience.
It's really interesting because I know my kids are really creative and curious about stuff. They love crafts, they love activities, and they've also started exploring, especially my daughter, she started exploring making her own little cakes, and she'll see a video or something with different ingredients and she'll run down to the kitchen to try combining it. So I certainly see the appeal there. I'm curious, on the STEM side, or maybe there's an example of a recent box or something you could kind of unpack for us a little bit more about what people were doing and what they were discovering through the BakIt Box.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our most recent boxes was being sold, and we're just ending this rotation, it's called our Science of Color box. It introduces you to 3 different recipes. The first one is called our Aurora Swirl Cookie. So it talks about the Northern Lights. It talks about Iceland. The second one is Morocco. It's an apricot and molasses bar, and it's so delicious. And the third one is an Indian laddu, and we talk about the Festival of Lights. So
beautiful. You
get 3 countries that are represented in the box, but the entire STEM and cultural and educational part of it is all around the science of color. So you have activities in your box, like a workbook, educational workbook that's included in your box, with a bunch of activities around learning color theory, how colors blend together. There's a fun experiment where you make your own paint at home with items around your kitchen, like food items. Yeah, and there's another experiment on how colors break down. You basically color on tissue paper, and then you let water seep through, and you can see how they all separate. So it's all at-home experiments that you can do with at-home items in your kitchen, but we guide you kind of through it and through the bake as well.
That is so interesting. And again, I was to say, so is that one sold out already, or are there any more?
It is actually, but the Aurora Swirl. So what we actually do with each of our bundles is the bundle is sold out, but we sell the materials as well. So the Aurora Swirl cookies is kind of the highlight. So if you go ahead and buy that kit, for example, you'll get all the content for Science of Color as well.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. So would you mind breaking down the business model a little bit then for me too? Because as you're saying, yes, a subscription box, it's coming monthly. And then depending on what's in the kit, some of those items get spun out to be available for one-time purchase moving forward. Is that right?
Yeah. So the subscription is actually quarterly. So you get 3 hits. It's delivered on a quarterly basis. So 4 times per year. You still end up getting 12 kits, but we built it this way so that parents have a little bit more flexibility. You don't have to do it monthly. If you want to do more than one, in that month, in the 3-month period, you have that ability. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, did you start out doing monthly, or I'm curious, like how
We
like your
did.
journey around the frequency? Okay, so you guys were doing
Yeah, we
monthly for a
started
while.
monthly, and a couple of pain points that we found. One, customers were saying that, we found 90% of customers said that monthly deliveries just lead to clutter. And I can
Mhm.
completely understand that. Like
Oh yeah,
the month goes by so fast and you already have, another item at your door. And then the second part of it was we kind of played around with the idea of having them choose a recipe for that month. And again, the time goes by so quickly. A lot of the customers were just not being able to log in and choose. So
right.
we redesigned it to quarterly, and it's now curated based on a topic that we create with 3 recipes. And then, kind of to your point, we do frequently spin off kind of the highlight and the bestseller of that bundle to be an individual kit that you can purchase, but you get all the content, including the recipes of the other two. It gives kind of the ability for you to try it out and have all the educational content, and then you can make the other 2 recipes at home on your own.
That's so interesting because I know a lot of brands that do monthly subscription boxes struggle to find that one-time purchase option fit, right? Like we've had Battle Box on here, and they do monthly curated outdoor stuff, and they've started to offer, say, like a different knife or a belt or something like available for one-time purchase, but it's not quite the same experience. It's more like, hey, if this is cool, you'll like it. Whereas it seems like any one-time purchase that somebody's going to make off of your site is still actually introducing to them the power of what your subscription box is offering regularly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the convenience of having all the ingredients pre-measured for you is there in both experiences. In the single kit offering, you're getting 1 recipe. And in the bundle offering, you're getting all 3 that we present to you. But it's a really nice way for people to try it out, to test, if this is something they like, if their kids like it. But also, we're a big gift giving opportunity as well. And so
Mhm.
we don't really want to force people into subscriptions only, because we also understand a lot of people are buying for grandkids, nieces and nephews, and they, just want to get 1 or 2 items. So we have both options.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think empowering that those separate journeys, but still having that ability to like cross pollinate either one, like can be really, really helpful. I'm curious, like with the offer on you have on your page, because you do have like the annual purchase option, and it sounds like the quarterly is kind of like the default normal subscription option, and then the one time
Right.
box option. Oh, I guess the question would be, so the one time would be whatever the kit is, the 3 sets of kits as a one time
Yes,
purchase. Okay.
exactly.
How has that been with that offer? Like, have you guys been testing that? How have you arrived at that? How's that been working for you?
Yeah. So we actually get a lot of like single bundle, we call it, purchases where they're getting that theme for that quarter. And majority of our customers are actually homeschool communities. So we're seeing both avenues where they're subscribing for the year, typically prepaying for the whole year, or they're just buying one time to try it out. So we honestly, we're seeing a lot of the one-time bundle purchases. And then in addition to the one-time bundle, we have those single kits available as well for like a 1 recipe experience.
And then with like the annual plan, are you getting like decent opt-in rates for that, or how? I'm curious to get guess about what the typical customer journey looks like. Are people generally grabbing the one-time option first, and then some people come back to subscribe, or do you see some people subscribe, some people get one time? How does that generally look for you guys?
Yeah, I would say it's a little more just kind of even. We get probably 60% of the year-long subscriptions up front. And again, I think that's related to the community that we're selling into, because they're homeschool and they are looking for educational tools. So kind of like, you get a discount if you're subscribing. So you can lock in for that 1 year and get all the kits already scheduled for you. But we do see a significant amount purchasing just the one-time bundle as well. And then naturally, we want to try to upsell them later with email campaigns and, all of the marketing that we put in place.
Do you find it's pretty effective on getting people that purchase the one time to opt into the subscription after that? Because I know that can be really, really hard because you're getting people to not only read emails, but take an offer.
Yeah, yes and no. I think there's always room to grow there. We have a pretty strong email campaign process where we have about 56% email open rates, which is very high and it's been great. But, does that always lead to a sale? Not necessarily. So we're always testing that data. Also, just something that's interesting about our customer base is sometimes they're using grant funds to purchase the product. So it's not necessarily sometimes it's their credit card that they're using right on the website and they're getting reimbursed for it. Or sometimes they go through the homeschool platform to purchase. So it's a little bit different where, then we're trying to capture them. And there's two routes there too. Come back and use grant funds and subscribe, or come back and subscribe with your own money. So we kind of are testing all of these different avenues to see what it takes to essentially get them to sign up.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious on the email side, like I would imagine you guys have some great content that you're sharing, like related to what's in the box. Would you mind unpacking that a little bit more? Because I think most brands could benefit from doing more content and not just sales emails.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a blog as well as our emails that we kind of integrate together to be able to have our emails be actually interesting content, to your point, like not just offers, but we share different ways you can use the box, different fun facts about those regions of the world, kind of an extension of what's already in your box. We also will tease like what's coming up, and that usually helps seal the deal because every 3 months we have a new theme, and it's very enticing because the photos are delicious looking. And so we do a bunch of teasers. And then in addition to that, like we might have an article out about like different baking tips and techniques, and we'll share that in our email campaigns as well. And then one thing we're doing as well is we're working with Bluestream on a retention campaign where we're essentially talking to our homeschool customers via SMS and kind of asking their experience, telling them some fun things that they can do with this box. Have you tried this? And we're kind of engaging with them that way to share more knowledge outside of email.
Yeah, how's that experience been with Bluestream? Because it's something that we've looked at as well. Like, are you seeing that drive? Like, is that improving retention for you? Is it improving like upsells of other items? Like, what have you seen to be the primary benefit of using Bluestream for that messaging after the app? Because it's have to purchase, right? It's people that have purchased, they're opting into the SMS messages. And then again, you're sending check-ins and offering up more content and things like that.
Yeah, so we're still collecting data, to be honest, but the engagement has been high, which is nice to see. And we are not seeing a lot of opt-outs, which is great. So we always give the customer the opportunity to like no longer receive those messages. And we're actually seeing a lot of them are engaging with our content. I think it's a little bit challenging right now to say whether we're getting upsells because a lot of them are subscribed. So until that 1 year is up and they need to renew, we're not really focusing on offers. We're really focusing on engagement and letting them get to know us and be excited about us. And then over time, it will be like, hey, you're almost up for renewal. Like, check out this next theme and you can lock in for another year.
Yeah, it sounds like the retention play would be really strong. They're just, I've always felt like, I mean, I guess I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on this, because there's a lot of brand founders out there that are nervous about communication, period, let alone SMS, where you're getting a reminder right on your phone that you have the subscription. What for you was the decision to go into that, or what would you say to another founder who's saying, we're scared about sending SMS or even just emails to existing subscribers?
Well, so I think it's kind of twofold. Like you have to be cautious of how much content you're sending, because naturally, if you send too much, they're just going to opt out, right? Like I think that's an experience with email as well. Like our email inboxes, I'm sure yours is too, just full of newsletters and anything that you've ever maybe signed up for. And sometimes it can be too frequent that you're not reading it, you're just deleting them. So I think there's a fine balance of like, quality content and you're actually giving information versus just offers all the time. And then we chose to go with SMS because our customer base, they're super, super savvy. They're homeschooling their kids. We wanted to make sure that we're providing quality content and in a convenient way. We know that our emails these days are so bombarded and you might miss something. So this is kind of a way to just check in and be like, hey, are you interested in this, on their phone? And they can say no. So when they don't say no and they're like, yeah, that sounds cool, like, I'm going to continue to engage, that gives us, some insight on how we can interact with this customer. And we also find that, they're sharing their phone numbers when they purchase. So we assume that that's also a little bit of like, we're okay with, you reaching out to us, assuming they obviously have an opt-out option.
Right. Well, and it's a big enough purchase where it makes sense to be able to track that easily. And then
Right.
I think like something I was thinking when you were saying that was, you know, if you've got something really cool to say or share, like if you have quality content, it makes sense that you want to make sure you cut through the noise and that it's arriving in there and for them so that they can actually consume it, as opposed to being worried that the message is going to spark or cause churn. Um,
Right.
do you think that it's, I mean, I guess you might not feel, you don't have to answer this question, but I just wonder if is it the educational element of your subscription box that lends itself to content more readily, or is it necessarily, would you say in your experience that it's something that any brand that's looking at subscription and repeat customers and engagement should be thinking about doing?
I think it's both. I think that that's the angle we take because we are an educational tool, and that's the way that we want to share the value of what we're bringing to the table. But for other brands, it might not be education, right? It might be something else. It could be just benefits and features of the product that your customers may not know of. One thing that we find is like, because a lot of our homeschool customers are purchasing through their state grant or through their program, they may not have been on our Instagram and they may not have even been to our website. So it's also kind of a way to share some info that, is already online and they just may not have engaged with yet.
That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, from a channel perspective, so you guys are getting traffic and sales through like grants and homeschool websites, not necessarily just, are you running like paid ad strategy as well for acquisition, or what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we are. Not as much as we were doing in the past, as we're more focused right now on homeschool. But yeah, absolutely. As you can imagine, we're doing retargeting, we're doing ads through Google, Meta, but that's not our primary acquisition source right now. But it's kind of split. Like we do a lot of homeschool through grants. We're approved as official curriculum in 14 states
Hello.
within those grant programs. So that's kind of marketing for us in a sense because we're listed in those states and we're listed through the platforms.
And then I would assume you get some good traction either with organic content or influencers that are talking to your
Absolutely.
target market, people that are homeschooling. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with the box, it's just kind of so fun, right? Like I love watching cooking videos. So I can imagine like an unboxing and cooking content would play really well for you guys too.
Absolutely.
I'm curious on the retention side, what are some of the problems or reasons that people are canceling, and how have you guys been addressing, like trying to fix those or solve that problem for people, if whether it's too expensive, or it sounds like you've already made some adjustments on the boxes stacking up because of the monthly.
Mhm.
I'd be curious to hear anything you guys have been fighting against and how that's been going.
Yeah, good question. To be honest, we haven't seen too much churn to date, but we're just about 2 years old and about 1 year into the homeschool kind of market that we're in. So we're just seeing that now that customers are like their 1 year is up. So we're kind of learning what that looks like. But we've seen some just say like, we did it for a year and we're going to move on to something different. Totally makes sense. We haven't seen price issues, which is great that the expense hasn't been an issue. And some people are just, to be honest, they're not that curious and looking for diverse recipes. I've had a few people say like a little exotic for us. It's like understood because we are introducing cultural, like something different. Your kids might not be, experimental in that way yet. And so we've seen a little bit of that, but we've tried to also like balance out too many strong flavor profiles with the recipes, just understanding that they are kids and they like what they like. But so we haven't seen too much of that like negative feedback yet. We're trying to keep it pretty streamlined. The biggest piece of feedback really was the clutter and, sending one a month. You don't get a chance to do it all the time in the month. So that really helped because you get a nice big box 4 times a year. It is not too much. And now we're seeing that like that hasn't been an issue anymore. Like they're just piling up and we don't get a chance to bake them.
Isn't that so interesting though? Like it almost feels counterintuitive, the idea of like switching from sending something monthly to sending 3 of something quarterly actually causes people to maybe use it more. The product adoption is higher. But I love that you made that pivot. I know of some other brands that have made that, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the Sub Summit guys, but they talk a lot about that for when they found a gentleman's box, and that's what caused them to transform their business. They went from monthly; it was a little too expensive. People got tired of too much stuff. quarterly, and it totally changed their exit
Yeah.
trajectory.
I was actually the pitch competition winner in 2024 at Sub Summit. So I'm very
I've seen you before. That is why you're familiar, because I was there. Well, congratulations. That's
Were you there?
fantastic.
Oh, that's
I was
awesome.
there. Yeah. I mean, I have to be, right? It's kind of like
Of course.
my big event of the year, but no, that's great. That's really great. As kind of as we wrap up, I'm just wondering if there's anything else you can think of from either a tip perspective, something painful that you've learned, or anything that you could share with the audience as they're also trying to figure out subscription growth.
Yeah, I would say a customer service is super, super important. And we pride ourselves on like fantastic customer service. You'll always be speaking to me or another person on my team to ensure that our customers are happy because, issues happen with a box, doesn't arrive on time, or if it's damaged, or they're out of town or something. When you have
Right.
subscriptions, timing isn't always perfect for the customer. So just being really mindful and understanding their perspective and trying to rectify any issues that come up, I think is a big part of the retention strategy. For a customer to say like, oh, I didn't enjoy it, but the customer service was awesome, is like, that's a win for me, because they may not buy right away, but they'll think about us as like, they know they got good service, and maybe they'll think about us for a gift, or for in a couple years, their next kid is of age, 5 and up, and wants to participate. So I think that's just a really big part of subscription, is having some hands-on people that can handle any issues customers have.
Yeah, I love that. It's like really about making sure you're not burning a bridge, because you just never know why people are leaving and what might bring them back again in the future. They have a positive experience. 6 months later, they see a post, they see an article, something like that might bring them back too. So that's great advice. Okay. Thank you, Shelly, for coming on the show. For those of you listening, I'll have a link to the website, but it's BakIt Box, BakitBox.com. Definitely go check it out. Although maybe not the chocolate cake page when you're hungry like I am. Yeah. Shelly, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. And that's it. Stay tuned to next week for another dose of subscription prescription. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.